Hogstye.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Hogsty. It's the Gruesome Twosome here with you this week. Dave has a sore throat or a nasal thing. I don't remember what it was. He can't talk.
He's missing a good show.
He's
And I
missing
think
a heck of a day to
he
miss a
is.
show.
The Gruesome Twosome is sort of like probably looks. That's probably what it is.
Yeah. I don't know who would come in first or second in that race.
And the most gruesome, I don't know. Yeah.
We're all fairly average to below average, I guess.
Yes. Kind of like being king of the fools a little bit.
Right. Yes. So much to get to today. So much. Daron Payne franchise tag. Players are getting re-signed. A whole slew of Dan Snyder stuff. Like that's probably going to be a bulk of the show. We could do 2 hours, and most of it would still be the Dan Snyder stuff. But we're going to try and stick to our 1 hour.
We've done many hours on Dan Snyder. We could do 2 more.
We're also going to be talking about free agent quarterbacks, the combine starting, and let's see, safeties. We got to talk safeties. There's just so much. All right, so we're just going to get into it. No chit chat like we usually do. I won't talk about how I went to a Defenders watch party because Steve would just make fun of it for too long.
Listen, I went to a Houston Roughnecks.
Yeah, you did.
Rally.
You went to the rally. Yeah.
Yeah, which was interesting.
About the same. And although I will say they packed the house of the watch party.
How many people were there?
About 75.
Yeah, see the Roughnecks thing, there was maybe, I don't know, 50 people there. So
yeah.
It was outdoors though. So it was in
this was at a brewery. They filled the brewery. So it was pretty good. But all right, let's get into all the stuff because there's a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Story 1, easy stuff. Daron Payne got the franchise tag. I think we all saw this coming. The team is probably not. There's been some talk that the team doesn't want to negotiate until the ownership thing is settled, which makes some sense in my opinion. So they franchise tagged him. All odds are he's going to sign it, so he'll be here next year. It's what, 18.9 million.
Okay, well, okay. So let me explain.
You were looking up the different tags and stuff.
Well, yeah. So let me explain. There's 3 tiers of tags. Okay, one tier is the exclusive tag, which means that the player cannot negotiate with any other team but the team that plays the tag on him.
Right.
So if you want to play football in the NFL, you got to play that team. Then the next tier down is called the non-exclusive tag, which means that you can negotiate with other teams, but if you sign a deal, then and the team lets you go, then they receive draft picks back in compensation, 2 first-round draft picks. Then there's what's called the transition tag, which is essentially a right of first refusal. Washington has placed the middle level tag on Daron Payne, which is the non-exclusive tag, meaning that Payne can go negotiate his own deal and Washington can match it. And if they don't want to, then they'll get draft picks, 2 first-round draft picks back. So for defensive tackle this year, this is Spotrack's data here, not me, and because I didn't bother to calculate it. But Spotrack is claiming 2023 defensive tackle franchise tag is 18.9 million.
Right.
And basically the rules have to. Don't quote me on this and get it a bit wrong, but it's the average. I think it's the average of the top 5 in each position group in the league.
That's for the tag he got. Yeah, and I don't.
Yeah, I believe.
And they tier it down with each tag. So I think with the next one it's top 10, for example, instead of top 5.
That's what it is. Yeah, it's something along those lines. So that's why Spotrack knows all this.
Because it's actually pretty easy to figure out once you know that.
That's why I said I could calculate if I felt like it, but I don't.
Right. Yeah, and you didn't have time.
I read a whole. If you want to talk about a contract, we're not going to do it here. I already did a whole segment on Daron Payne contract.
We've talked about it a few times. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Just go back and listen. All right. David Mayo resigns, vet minimum deal. They love them some David Mayo on that.
They love some
coaching.
Mayo. I don't get it personally, but okay.
Yeah. I'm not a Mayo guy on anything. Generally, maybe in tuna salad. That's it. But
that sounds horrible.
It's that I'd rather mustard in any situation where you put mayo on things.
I'm generally not
mustard.
a sauce person.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. You like ketchup on a hot dog, or you used to?
No, I've said I have eaten ketchup with French fries occasionally. Never with a hot dog. The only thing goes on hot dog is cheese.
Cheese on a hot dog's pretty darn good. I love me a
not
good
for me
chili cheese
anymore
dog.
because I'm on my health food.
No,
kick,
you're
and
healthy
so
now.
Those days are over. But yeah. So no mayo. Ugh.
Yeah.
And
But
also
David
no
Mayo,
mayo on burgers either.
Never, never. David Mayo, congratulations for continuing your tenure here in Washington.
In the NFL period.
Yeah. You know what? You can have a long career if you're willing to just take vet minimum.
And that vet minimum is a lot of money.
Yeah, it's still $1 million plus for him at this point.
For him, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So those are the things. There were also some minor re-signings of like guys who are like backup special teams unit types. They're not even starting special team. So we're not even going to focus on that.
Payne isn't, but yeah.
No. There was another couple signings that I just we don't have time to deal with that. We got to talk about all the Dan Snyder stuff because since we last did the show, there have been at least 8 different haymakers that have come out about the Dan Snyder selling the team, controversies, and other nonsense. I'm going to go chronologically here, and then we'll dive in.
All right.
224, the New York Post. John Cashman puts out a story that despite the rumors that Jeff Bezos was hiring a major law firm to, put in a bid, he's been told by Dan Snyder that Dan Snyder will not accept a bid from Bezos. So that first came out.
It wasn't a law firm. It was an investment firm.
Oh, sorry, investment firm.
Yeah.
Allen and something, right? I can't remember.
Yeah, that's not a law firm.
Oh, okay. They just all have law firmy names. That's all.
Yeah. The investment place like that do.
Yeah. That story also had 2 other little tidbits. Josh Harris, who's the candidate or the contender for the, buying of the team that everyone knew about, hasn't put in a bid yet at this point. And there was a secret bidder who had put in a bid of $5.5 billion, way below the 7 number, below the 6 number that Dan said he wanted. So that was the first thing that came out. We later found out, by the way, that's Tillman Fertitta.
You want to hear about Tillman Fertitta?
Or Fertitta? Yeah.
You want to hear about him?
Sure you're in Houston. You know everybody.
Yeah. and I need to be careful about what I say.
Obviously.
So generally speaking, Tillman Fertitta is the owner of the Houston Rockets.
Right.
And he owns a lot of restaurants, hundreds of restaurants all around.
Yeah, Landry's restaurant is one I know.
Landry's, it's the Landry's
casino. Yeah,
the Landry's empire, and he owns multiple hotels, casino in Louisiana. Very wealthy guy, has a reputation as a bit of a tyrant and someone who is not a nice person, not a great boss to work for. I'm it's just a situation I need to not say too much, but
right.
If you're expecting somebody who has a different type of personality than the little tiny tyrant in Danny, you're going to get an average sized tyrant in Tillman. So I don't know how much better he is than Danny. And the other thing is that the Rockets fans down here, a lot of them feel as though Tillman has placed money over winning with the Rockets.
Sure. I mean, they
noticed that the Rockets
trade away a lot of talent.
They did, and they sucked too. They were the worst team in basketball last year. And so a lot of people blame him for that because he's fairly new to ownership of the Rockets, and most of the bad happened on his watch. So you combine a reputation, a negative personal reputation, with a sports owner who at least the fans have come to believe that some of what has happened to their basketball team is his fault. I don't know how much of an improvement Tillman Fertitta would necessarily be over Dan Snyder.
Right.
And for those of you who don't know, I live in Houston.
Right.
And I'm an attorney down here. So.
Right. So, Steve, this is all grapevine stuff, basically. Do we even want to say it that way? No.
Well, yeah. I mean, the team stuff is just, what I know. The stuff about the fans of the Rockets. I'm not a Rockets fan.
But you listen to sports radio, and you can find that out pretty easily. Yeah. That's what I meant by grapevine stuff. It's all like, yeah. The next day, so that was on 224 that this stuff started coming out. 225, the Post puts out a story, and a bunch of other people put this out too. Oh no, Bezos hasn't been told he can't buy the team at all. Like, that's not true. That was just a slimy rumor by the New York Post. The Washington Post says that's fine. They also we get reports that If Dan Snyder doesn't get at least $6 billion, he's not selling, and he would just take the team off the market. Then it was also reported that if Dan does that, the NFL is just going to have a vote on whenever the owners' meetings are. And it's sure they don't say it outright, but it sure seems like they're saying they have enough votes to get rid of him suddenly.
Well, okay, you have to put all of this into context.
Right. This is all negotiation in the press.
Yeah. Well, number one, Bezos is another guy who I don't think you guys really know what you're in for with Jeff Bezos.
Sure,
He's not going to be any better either.
We've
He's
talked
got
about that.
Yeah, he's got a terrible reputation. I know there's a bunch of you guys out there who are just all over Bezos. It's mainly because that's a billionaire whose name you know more or less.
He's the richest man in the country. Yeah, I think everyone knows
I think Elon is the richest.
No, he's lost most of his money.
Elon hasn't lost most of it. He's lost some of his money.
He's lost enough to make him no longer number one.
I don't know, but he certainly Bezos is in one or two. I wouldn't agree with you on one, but it doesn't matter. Bezos, very rich dude.
Mm-hmm.
And now understand that there's a salary cap. So it doesn't matter if you have a guy who's worth $200 billion. He can't spend $200 billion on the team.
Right.
Okay. So that part.
He can just build you a very nice stadium and facilities and all
possibly,
that stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
But so the bigger issue here, this is people negotiating in the press. Okay. Mm-hmm. This doesn't mean that Dan Snyder is or isn't going to actually really toe the line to $6 billion. He might not sell it all. First of all, I'm still not convinced he's going to, but he may take a lower amount. This is just him or his people leaking stuff like this in the press to drive the price up. Okay. Right. And then the other side, and maybe somebody internally in the NFL is reminding him via press leaks that they could always vote him out to put pressure on him to accept lower prices. It may be the bidders putting that out.
Sure.
It could be, And
so I remember hearing.
I've done a lot of negotiations. Okay. You don't take all this stuff literally. You just remember the perspective of and understand the context of what is going on here.
Now, Steve, you've done a lot of negotiations.
Oh, yeah.
Negotiating through the press, never really a great idea, right? Not like this.
Well, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, if it's a high-profile event and you can say stuff in the media or in the public that means something and it sends messages, and that's what's happening here. So it's a bit of a slime ball tactic, but it's not necessarily
right.
Bad thing to do depending on the context. Like you say something about the hog side, nobody but us is going to care. But you say something about the NFL in the media, you say something about Dan Snyder, you say Dan Snyder's only going to accept $6 billion or he's not selling. The idea with this is let's plant that to send a message to the bidders. Oh my God, if we want the team, we're going to have to get closer to $6 billion. And of course these bidders are smart too, and they know this, and so it's a game that they're playing here. So let's say bad things in the media about Dan. And
quite literally, after it gets leaked that the highest bid was 5.5, we get a story that says Dan won't take anything less than 6. I think it's kind of obvious what happened there.
And so, like these reporters, you have to understand. I mean, we know some of these reporters. I'm not disparaging them, but you have to understand. Reporters are just journalists. Okay, right. They don't do this for a living. I do this for a living. They don't negotiate stuff, and most of them don't really know. So you can't always take what some of these beat writers say as absolute truth. You take what they report, the facts of what they report, but some of their opinions aren't that good about this.
I try to ignore the opinion side of a lot of this. I mean, obviously, I think we all see it's negotiation through the press. And you got to remember, too, sometimes these reporters, they're going to leak stuff because they know it gets them access to something later that might be valuable.
They're plugged into one. They may be plugged into one side or the other of this.
Right. They all. I remember I heard an interview with the guy from the New York Post who's been doing a lot of this stuff. And he kind of said in the interview, all his contacts are on the buyer side. He didn't say which, but he said they're all on the buyer side. So, like, he was pretty blunt about where his leaks are coming from there. If he's telling the truth, which I'm going to assume he was in the interview. Like, I don't think he has a big benefit there.
Well, like Adam Schefter's talking to specific, types of people, and
exactly.
It's I don't know. We don't know who they are, but
no.
Some of them hear from agents. Some of them hear from NFL, insiders or NFL employees. It just depends.
All right, let's jump forward another 2 days because on the 26th, I think everyone just took a break. On the 27th.
On the 7th day, we shall rest.
Well, no, we rested in the middle of it. On the 27th, Maskey and Liz Clark in the Washington Post reported very late that day that if Dan Snyder is selling, he's telling the NFL that he wants to be indemnified from any future lawsuits involving the NFL. Well, assuming it's about any NFL-related lawsuits. Not clear if it's just NFL stuff or his team stuff too. Team came out later and said, no, this is not true. We've never asked for that. But these were reports that came from within the NFL side, supposedly, that Dan is asking for this.
So first of all, what this means is,
yes, layman terms, indemnification.
Layman terms means if I get sued, you're going to pay for my damages.
Right.
Even if it's my fault. That's what it means.
Even if it has nothing to do with the NFL.
Well, no, I mean, there's some limits to it. It's not like, if he goes out and punches somebody in the street, that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about there's different levels. I've written a ton of indemnity provisions, hundreds of them. And so it's a negotiation and it's a starting point. Like some indemnities that basically say, you're going to indemnify us if I get sued and it's your fault.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how lawsuits are going to go anyway. So it's not that critical of indemnity. But other indemnities will say, if we get sued for absolutely anything, even if it's 100% my fault, you're still going to pay for it.
Sure.
That's now we don't know what Danny asked for, but I can tell you that the NFL will laugh him out of the building for this.
Right.
Okay.
So
there's zero chance that the NFL would ever indemnify a former owner in this circumstance. That's crazy.
In context, I picked this little tidbit up listening to other people talk about it. Stan Kroenke tried to get indemnification for the whole St. Louis.
We did a whole segment
sale.
about this. We did two segments on IJB about this. Yeah. Keep going.
Yeah. So he asked for indemnification there, and the whole St. Louis leaving St. Louis early to get to LA.
They eventually cut a deal. We did a segment, I don't know, a month or two ago about.
But he didn't get indemnification, right?
No, but they cut a deal, and the NFL ended up paying some of the damages, and Kroenke paid the rest. So it wasn't really an indemnity, but his using that pressure point as a tactic ended up in a settlement. Right. He still owed hundreds of millions of dollars. It was a lot of money, but.
Oh yeah. Well, it was it almost $1 billion or something?
Something like that. Yeah, but his part of it was hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right. It was a crazy number. I remember that. All right.
But it's like, were you going to see this if like you take your kids to like Jumping World or something?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see indemnities there. This is the forms that you don't read when you take little Johnny or Jane to the jumping place.
The 5 pages written in 5 font.
Now because I'm a nerd like this, read those stuffs. And the last time I went into one of those, I rewrote their indemnity, crossed a bunch of things out, initialed stuff, refused to sign stuff. And the clerk just looked at me and okay, whatever, because I don't sign stuff like that, because those things will say if you get hurt,
it's your fault, basically.
Well, yeah, it's your fault, but you will not blame you. If there's a release, you won't blame us, and you're going to identify us, and you're going to pay for our damages if even if it's our fault that you got hurt.
Right.
That's what those things say. So never sign those things. So that is what little Danny wants. And Danny's never going to, the NFL will never, ever, ever, ever do that.
Right. This is something the NFL doesn't do for other owners. They're not going to do it for him.
Not in this context.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. If Kroenke got a little something, Dan's not getting nothing. All right. Now we get to the 28th. And this is probably the biggest story that people were freaking out about, of course. In the end, I know, Steve, you said you thought it was not. It was.
Go on. I have thoughts.
All right. Okay. ESPN on the morning of the 28th puts out a story about it's a lot of the background and stuff we didn't necessarily know about the fight between Dan and the other minority owners. It seems that Dan Van Natta, the writer for ESPN, got a hold of a lot of the evidence that was presented to the NFL. Don't know from where, but he got a hold of a lot of the documents. I'm going to go through some of the bullet points about what was in here, because there's some fun stuff. The other owners were super pissed at Dan. There's a $55 million loan that they weren't, or not loan, but it was a
line of credit.
Line of credit, yeah. 20 million was taken out is what I saw at one point. That line of credit, the other owners never knew about. And they found out about it a year and a half, 2 years after it had happened. and it's supposedly something they're supposed to sign off on. This is also the focus of a federal grand jury and a federal investigation, apparently, that loan. According to the ESPN story, team is denying that. But there were some fun things in here, too. We all knew the team was losing money and was not making what it used to. The actual numbers were in this story. At 2009, the team was making $250 million a year on sales at the stadium and, the individual revenue, not the shared revenue. That had dropped about $100 million by 2019 when the whole controversy started with Fred Smith and Dan fighting. So it was about 150, 160 net, and that's where it is now, supposedly. We found out Dan Snyder has been paying himself a salary from the team, along with being the owner. I don't think that's that big a deal. He is paying himself $10 million a year as a salary. Not that unusual.
It is tax accounting.
Yeah, exactly. Matter. So some people are making a big deal of that. I don't think that's a big deal. The one that's everyone's making fun of that's interesting is he was charging the team $4.5 million for putting the Redskins logo on the side of his plane as an advertising cost. And he was taking money out of that, which that's kind of ridiculous. All kinds of ridiculous. Again, not legal, slimy, and ridiculous. That there's no value to him putting the logo on his own plane because no one sees it. It sits in a hangar. He sees it. That's the only person who would notice. The things that might be more interesting, Steve, and I want your takes on this.
Okay.
Apparently, he was using team funds to pay his personal staff, like his household staff, the pilots for his plane. That could be a little hinky on the tax, depending on how they're filing it and stuff like that. I'd think. It sounds like he may have also used team funds to purchase things like his yacht.
Yeah. Okay. So none of all of it's slimy and Dan Snyder's scumbag and all of that. I'm not denying that. Most of this stuff we already knew.
Sure.
Almost nearly all of it is just simple business dispute stuff that was already litigated and mediated and settled. All these things
sure.
that Dan, all these expenses and stuff, and some of it's a little hinky. Yeah. I mean, could you pay yourself $10 million in salary? Yes.
Yeah.
Could you charge an advertising fee on it? Sure. I mean, is it worth it? No. But is it criminal? No. Now, we already knew that the Justice Department was investigating this because that came out of the House Oversight Committee report. Right. They referred it to Justice. That is why the Justice Department is doing this. So let's start at the top. The line of credit business. So Washington took Washington via Dan Snyder via the team, took a $55 million line of credit out of Bank of America.
Right.
Now, like I told you, I've done a whole lot of deals like this. And
not unusual.
Hundreds. Yeah. And part of the issue here is, I guess, the minority shareholders claim that Danny did not have the corporate authority to do this, and they might be right. But when we do these deals, you always get a corporate resolution in which the board approves the deal. And then the corporate secretary signs it as saying there was a meeting on this date and they approved the deal and here's the documents and we approve these documents. If Bank of America did not do that, that is Bank of America's fault. That's not necessarily bank fraud. It could be bank fraud. If Danny forged a resolution or something, that could be bank fraud. But it sounds to me a lot more like this is just corporate governance stuff and business disputes. And again, if Bank of America did not get a proper resolution to satisfy their underwriting, that is on Bank of America. That is not on Danny. That's number one.
Understood. Now, hold on.
Go.
The question, the only, I think, fraud-ish thing is it sounds to me from what I read in the story, Bank of America said, we need this. We need this. We need this. And they were told verbally or maybe in an email, we have it. We just need to get it to you.
Well, and I've had that happen a lot. And what happens is we just don't close.
No, I understand that. I'm assuming Dan Snyder's got a friend at Bank of America. Because have you noticed everything's Bank of America all of a sudden?
Well, that's
with him.
his. Well, that's his thing. You know, it's
Yeah.
his lender. But
By the
so
way,
yeah,
shittiest bank in the country, but that's just my opinion.
that is neither here nor there. So no, but so anyway, I look, Danny's a billionaire. He obviously has
Right.
a butt ton of money in here. Maybe he bullied him into it. Maybe they were, cowed by his celebrity and all of that. Maybe they compromised their standards because of this. But
Yeah.
it looks a lot to me, more to me like less bank fraud and more just bad banking and mixed up corporate governance, which again, they already settled all of these claims.
Right. Right.
None of this is new and none of this is going to do anything because it's already all been litigated. The more interesting part in this story to me, and that counts for the advertising on the plane. Yeah, it's dumb,
Right.
but is that illegal? No.
No,
Is
no,
that
no.
criminal? No,
I
it's
don't
just
think
dumb.
that's illegal at all. I think
The,
it's slimy and it's shady in the sense that
it's not even really shady. I mean, it's all this stuff again are more tax dodges than anything.
it's not even a great tax dodge. That's
It's
the
not.
weird
I'm
part.
just saying it's
Yeah.
managing income and taxes and stuff. I mean, it's because at the end of the day, that could come out of his share of his 60% share of the profits,
Well,
and
but it didn't. What he basically
I don't
did
know
was
what.
say, "I'm taking this 4 million
I
for
know,
me, and
but
you're
again,
not
this
getting
is
your
not.
cut." Yeah.
None of this stuff is. This is a lot less fraudulent, more just like rich business dudes who can't follow their own corporate governance. The
Right.
more
The
interesting part of all this to me
mhm.
was the allegations that the NFL helped cover this up.
Right.
That's
That's a big deal. If that
well,
or
yeah. I
bigger
mean,
deal.
it's the shield. It's what's the word? It's tarnishing the shield.
Right.
Because what the article basically said was that what was alleged is that the NFL knew how slimy little Danny was, and they helped cover for him. They buried the Beth Wilkinson investigation.
Right.
They kind of ignored all these other allegations. That is more interesting to me. That still might not be, conspiracy to commit bank fraud or anything, but it's just more interesting and more substantive to me that because it's saying the NFL is in cahoots, colluded with Danny a little bit, and I think that was the biggest thing to come out of it for me. But again, we knew all this. None of this is
Right.
new.
No,
It was
no.
just written in a different way.
There were a lot more details. Like
Yeah.
you and I kind of had a back and forth about this. We always knew the team had lost a huge chunk of their revenue. We never had the exact numbers given.
No, but I would have guessed they had lost about that much.
You
So
probably would have guessed in the ballpark. I agree.
yeah, I would have.
But now it's in that exact ballpark of they were at 250 a year. Now they're at 150, and that's a
I would
huge
have
drop.
100% guessed that. But yeah, that's and I believe they were last in the NFL in team revenue. Did I not say that?
I think they're in the bottom third. I don't think there's some small market teams like Jacksonville. I think
I
that
thought it
probably
was
struggle.
last, but I could be wrong. But yeah,
I didn't see
mean,
anyone put that number because
'cause
again, we don't know most of the teams. We know Green Bay. I think we know Dallas because Jerry Jones brags about it all the time.
Dallas is way over Washington at this point.
Yeah, I think Dallas is over
But
500
just if you
million
think
a year or
about it,
something. Yeah.
I mean, Washington lost a lot of their fan base anyway, and so it's natural to assume their ad revenue is going down. And then
Right.
you had an active campaign of which I wrote letters to be a part of for
Right.
asking advertisers to abandon the team, and some
Eh,
of them publicly did.
But Steve, here's the thing. This is all before that. We're talking 2018, 2019, before the
Oh, I
name
know,
change.
but
Yeah.
that's why I
Yeah.
said we know it's been plummeting. Is
Right.
all I'm saying. It has been
So
plummeting for a long time.
honestly, it's safe to guess it's probably plummeted more since that 150 number. I don't
Well,
think
they
it's
might
gone
have,
up.
yeah. I mean, they probably sold some more merchandise, maybe because of the stupid Commanders garbage.
Right. Yeah.
But a lot of that
Steadied the
is,
ship a little.
yeah. But most of the merchandise revenue is split, Karl Marx style with the rest of
Right.
the NFL, though.
That's true. Unless it's sold in your stadium or
Yeah,
something.
there's a
some.
couple rules like that, and then
Yeah.
believe it or not, Dallas has a carve out. If anybody didn't
I
know
did
that.
not know that.
Yeah, nobody
I did not.
does. It's in the corporate governance stuff. The
Oh.
Dallas Cowboys Inc. or Dallas Cowboys LLC or something. Yeah.
It's kind of like how the Longhorns have that carve out of the
Yes.
big. Okay.
Yeah.
That's wild. I didn't know
same
that.
kind of thing. Yeah.
I hate the Cowboys so much.
It's funny because I live in Houston here, and everybody from Houston. I'm not from here. I
Right.
just live here. Everybody from here really hates Dallas,
Right.
like Redskins fans do. But I just think it's amusing because in a football sense, the Dallas Cowboy fans couldn't care less about anything Houston at all. They don't care about Houston, period. And so it's a very one-sided hate. It's sort of like the hatred between Baltimore and Washington. Like the Washington people like Alex kind of turn their nose up at Baltimore a little bit, and Baltimore hates Washington. Everybody in Baltimore
when it comes to certain sports stuff, especially.
And in many other respects too.
Yeah.
That's kind of the relationship between Dallas and Houston.
Sure. I think we all you always hear about it. At least I do, since I married somebody from Houston.
Yeah.
Right. So some other stuff that you bring up the whole thing with did Goodell kind of covered up. I think it definitely doesn't look good for him either way, Roger Goodell. I'm with you that putting it all in context, it's probably not. He's not going to go to jail for any of it.
Well, okay. So let me stop stop you. So, if there's more to this than we know,
right?
And if DOJ would charge him with some form of bank fraud, money laundering, maybe conspiracy to commit this, with some of his business partners or whatever, if hypothetically those kind of charges came, then hypothetically he could be charged with felonies that would put him in jail. But the odds of that are very, very slim considering what we've seen.
Right. Also, rich people don't tend to go to jail.
Well, yeah, then there's that.
Unless you pull a Jack Abramoff.
Yeah, Bernie Madoff did and died in jail.
Yeah, a couple guys have done it.
Sam Bankman-Fried's about to go away for life.
Well, the old thing is rich guys don't go to jail unless they screwed over other rich guys, and then they go to jail. So the only other interesting thing that a lot of people are taking away from this, Stephen, I want your thoughts on it. A lot of the stuff that's in here points to Dan is probably not very wealthy at this point. And one of the reasons why people think he's really trying to sell is all this points to the fact that he just probably doesn't have the money to pay off all these loans. And there could be a serious problem for him financially speaking. And that's what's really this is all about.
Well, I'd like to point out that I have said this on the air before.
Does this build your confidence in that?
Well, yeah. And again, I probably would have guessed this, that he didn't have a ton by rich guy standards, not by regular person standard, but like billionaire standard, probably didn't have a ton in the bank. And
he probably doesn't have more than a couple million.
Well, yeah, but the big thing here is that he owes $900 million or $890 or something to his minority partners.
Yeah.
That is a huge amount of debt service. Okay. That's a loan. That's not a grant. That's not free money. He took out a loan to pay that. So that is a lot of debt to pay that he probably doesn't have. And the team revenue's down, as we already talked about.
Yep.
He doesn't have a ton of other businesses. He's a lifelong failure. He's failed up, granted, he's like the Kamala Harris of finance. He fails up everywhere he goes. But you think about it, Johnny Rockets failed.
Yep. Six Flags failed.
Six Flags. They did a hostile takeover to get him out of Six Flags. He was so bad. If you know what a hostile takeover is, it basically means stockholders who are against you will go out and buy a bunch of stock to vote you off the board. And that's what happened to Danny.
Yep.
Johnny Rockets failed. His Paramount Pictures thing disappeared. They made one movie and that was it. And Tom Cruise left. He doesn't have successful businesses.
Look, if it wasn't for the so-called, like what you like to call the Marxism of the NFL, this team would have been bankrupt already.
Oh, it would have. Yeah, absolutely, definitely would have.
They would have shuttered this team probably 5 years ago.
So I never thought he had a ton of money. I mean, again, by billionaire standards, he has a lot of equity in the team, but equity is not cash. This, by the way, is why you can't tax. Why, when the federal government is talking about the rich people paying their fair share, and we're going to tax investments and this and that, and tax capital gains. This is why you can't do that, because what you will do is you'll make people have to sell their investments to pay the taxes.
Right.
But anyway, that's another podcast. That's
really a whole different. Yeah.
It's really freaking stupid that you need for people to accept that.
I would not be surprised if. Well, I think it's obvious. Dan's debt is probably much bigger than what he has in the bank.
There's also a little bit of debt left on the stadium Also,
There's
not a
also,
lot.
and he just bought another $50 million house and a $200 million boat, and
Yep.
I doubt he paid those off.
He's
I don't think he had the money for
it. Probably not.
Yeah.
So it's safe to assume that he's got, at a minimum, I would venture a guess that he probably has somewhere along the lines of $1 billion in debt. Either he or entities controlled by him.
Oh, I would be surprised if it's not closer to like 1.2 or something.
I don't know. I mean, it could be, but it's in that ballpark. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how does he pay? This is why in the beginning of this madness, I said he might truly be trying to find minority partners to pay off that big chunk of debt.
Yeah.
And so,
but a lot of people think that $55 million line of credit was because he probably just doesn't have any money.
Could be.
And 2 years ago, it came right at the time he bought his stupid boat.
And the one thing, by the way, he could get in trouble with, I think that's more likely, is taxes.
Oh, yeah.
Because it looks like one thing the story did do that I did agree with, I didn't really articulate it in the tweet I put out about it, was a lot of this stuff sounds like tax problems to me. Because when a lot of time when you have rich guys who are who are sole owners of businesses, and there's so much ego and arrogance, they start mixing up expenses.
Right.
They start
clearly,
putting
if he's paying his maids out of the team coffers,
stuff like
that's starting to do that.
Stuff like that is not a business expense. Now you could have the team own a yacht, for example, but maybe it shouldn't be a team. That's the kind of stuff that tax auditors will dig into, and that's where you can get in trouble. I think that is more likely that if he's dorked up his taxes.
Well, so one of the other ones that I didn't mention that I remember hearing. I
think that's unlikely too, just for the record. Sorry, but go ahead.
Unlikely, but he was doing, and this is, again, you can do this. It is a little shady. He was charging the team to use his plane.
See, that's not an inappropriate charge.
No, but
he is kind of a billionaire being a bit sleazy, but that's not inappropriate.
Yeah, he's always walking that fine line, and you only have to trip over the line a few times for them to.
That part is not really walking a fine line. I'd probably do the same thing. I mean, I think that's smart.
Well,
that's a business expense. It is.
Depends on is he doing it for his trips to London, or is he doing it for that kind of.
Well, there's that, but also the plane probably is not in his name. The plane most likely is in the name of a company that he owns. It's probably a corporately owned. Billionaires don't own stuff, okay?
Right. They have shell corporations.
We all like to say, little Danny owns this, little Danny owns this. He doesn't own any of it. Indirectly he does, but it's all in the name of corporations.
Right.
I
understand that.
Yeah, so I don't know if you own it, but I don't know if everybody really gets that. So the plane probably is in the name of some company, some investment company or whatever, some LLC he owns. And what he's doing is he's charging expenses on the plane to the Pro Football Inc., which owns the team.
Right.
It's just him moving money around between himself.
Right. Well, he's charging, it sounds like, the flights, this advertising thing, and possibly the salaries of his pilots to the team through that.
And he needs to be careful. I mean, that's the kind of thing you can get mixed up with auditors and stuff.
Right. You better hope your accountants are keeping good track of things. Yeah. So that's all the stuff that's really happened. But there were some other fun stories that came out. Today, the NFL Players Association did a first ever, and this is a survey of active players. 1,300 players participated. A survey about the facilities and
travel.
They called it the team report card.
Okay.
Is what they called it. And so it covered treatment of facilities, nutrition, weight rooms, strength and conditioning staff, training rooms, training staff, locker room quality, and travel. So they graded every team based off of these surveys on those categories.
What position did Washington come in, Alex?
Well, Steve, I'll tell you one thing. They got the highest grade in terms of their strength and conditioning or their strength coach, Eaglehart, I believe is his name. He's been there for 10 years, and he was the highest rated strength coach in the league.
Except everywhere else, diagnosing cancer tumors on somebody's neck.
But he's in the weight room. He's not doing that.
Go ahead. I'm just kidding.
Well, funny you mentioned that. The training and recovery staff, they actually had one of the lowest ratings in the league. They had a D. in training staff. And I think if I read the whole like summary they wrote, there was a particular point players do not feel comfortable using this staff for recovery was like one of the quotes. So yes, they got a D there. I'll just go through them. On the first category, nutrition, they got a D plus. So, you know, they're
than a D minus.
Better than a D minus. It's like you're getting, I don't know, Wendy's instead of McDonald's every day. On weight room, they got a C plus. So above average. That's fair. We covered the coach, the strength coach. Training room, Steve. What's the lowest thing you think you could get?
F.
No, F minus.
Oh, ooh, that's yeah. Like you really, really suck.
Yep. Locker room. Guess what it is?
F minus.
F minus. And then on the travel, F minus.
How do they screw up team travel? I'd like to know this.
So okay, I can tell you exactly what
Please
it is.
Do.
Team travel, they don't give players first class seats on the plane. Like never. The first class seats.
So they have I think years ago Washington used Continental. I don't know what the Continental's gone.
Yeah, but it's that same concept.
Yeah, but there's only a handful of first class seats in a commercial airliner.
And they all go to the executives, not the players. And apparently that's not typical. I guess
that's fair though. I mean, wouldn't the executives deserve the
most teams? I guess give a lottery or something and let the players.
But if there's like 10 coaches and a couple of front office guys, wouldn't you put them up in first class? I would.
No, apparently most teams do not.
I would. I'm with the Redskins on that one.
They don't even give the players the business class seats is the other thing I saw.
Well, that I would. I mean, but I would like put the senior folks up front, and then if there's like a lottery, you know, if there's a few seats left over, you maybe put the veterans, or you have a lottery, maybe put the rookies. I don't know.
From what I've also heard, Dan's buddies get all the first class seats. Like,
well, that sucks.
Yeah. Not people even affiliated with the team.
Like Dan's hookers or somebody. Yeah.
No, the people he gets the hookers for, not the hookers. The hookers coach. You know. So the other thing
hotels,
that this team
part of this?
Hotels is part of it, and apparently they're one of the few teams that has young players double up in rooms still.
Because God help you if we spend another $200 a night on a hotel for you.
Right, exactly. So like the senior players, the high level guys all get their own room, but the underneath folks all have to share rooms.
But if you're like Phil Mathis, you're just stuck. You're gonna have a roomie.
Yep, exactly. And I hope it's just two to a room. They don't really ever say, but I'm hoping it's just two.
Can you imagine having like 3 offensive linemen in one hotel room? That'd be horrible.
Sharing a queen size bed, baby. All that sleep apnea. It's just very loud. So let's see some other fun things that came out. Everyone complains that obviously the facilities are too small. Is I think the consensus. The locker room's too small. The hot tubs are too small. The cold tubs are too small. The nice one is the showers are always clogged. So you know that's pleasant.
The plumbing's old and crappy, and they just
get a snake, Jason.
That's
Jason Wright. I need you to go get a snake tomorrow.
I can guarantee you, Jason Wright has no idea what you're talking about.
I mean, I don't even snake drains.
I wouldn't do it. No, I would call a plumber. Call a plumber, Jason.
Okay, call a plumber and have him bring a snake. And it's something you could do for $30, but you probably don't know how. It's fine. There's a new one I see advertisements for all the time that's got a little like claw. It's very cool. But yeah, so last place, 32 out of 32. That's where they came in.
It doesn't surprise. I mean, it's kind of fun and exciting that they're 32 because I just think that's hilarious. I don't know if I would have guessed 32. I might have, if I had to guess, I might have guessed Cincinnati for it'd be last because that owner.
Cincinnati was not very high. They were, I think, bottom 5 as well.
That's if somebody asked me to guess the very because I've always heard that that guy is super cheap.
Yeah, well, they don't. They're one of the older families. They don't have.
We've heard that little Danny is super cheap too, and this is proving to be true.
The difference is Danny's not like a legacy family. At least the Browns, are one of the original owners, right? Like
this is the man who made his team use used jock straps.
Right.
Remember that story? And then one of the players had to go out and buy a whole bunch of them for his teammates.
Yeah. Now, the interesting thing is Baltimore was one of the highest rated in everything except for strength staff. They're the inverse of Washington. They had the worst strength stats and were pretty good on everything else. But, I mean, the obvious thing is Redskins Park is old. It's
very old. It's very old. What is it, 40 years old at least?
At this point, something like that, yeah. And I know, like, every time a new guy comes in who's going to try and fix things, he does a little stuff here and there. Jason Wright has fixed all the fields, which is good. Like that, he came in, he said, your practice fields are terrible, your field at the stadium is terrible. Let's start from scratch there, fix those.
They didn't even have a practice bubble up until Jay Gruden, remember?
No, it was Shanahan.
Oh, was it Shanahan?
Yeah. But that's what I mean. New guys come in, they're like, let's try and at least put a couple Band-Aids on this.
But it's kind of like putting spinning wheels on your 92 Honda.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. I mean, that's what it is.
I mean, who doesn't want spinning rims? But come on.
Not on the old Honda,
No. Well, if you paint some sweet flames on it, maybe then it works.
Or put some like lights that light up when they spin.
Yeah, there you go. Now we're talking. That is what the Redskins Park is. It's the equivalent of the 92 Honda.
With some spinning rims on it, but they're bad, ugly spinning rims.
Right. They cheaped out on them because remember the bubble actually fell down at one point. And
bubble collapsed. That's right.
Yeah, it took 2 years to fix it. So that's just another fun thing to make fun of. But Steve, going back a little bit to buying the team, it's yet another. Why is he not getting $6 billion for this team?
Because there's a lot of freaking expenses. That's why.
Yeah. Because
I called it a distressed asset on IJB. We released IJB a day later, and I meant to this week.
Yeah, it's up as we're speaking.
Yeah, Chris and I went over. Recorded that. Yeah, not all of it though. We recorded that show on Saturday morning.
Right.
And so some of the ESPN bombshell that I didn't think was much of a bombshell, that we didn't know about.
Right.
So we went over Bezos in detail, all that stuff. But on that show, I said this team is almost a distressed asset. And like when you're talking about a sale, like a distressed asset means it has major problems,
right.
And they're just trying to dump it, to kind of escape with their lives. That's sort of kind of
right.
Now, I mean, it's still more valued than the Broncos, so it's not really a distressed asset, but it's got a lot of problems. And it's kind of headed that direction.
I would say it's like if you were to go to buy a house and you get to the house and you realize there was a fire in the basement and, you're going to have to replace all that and all the floors.
Walter White used to live there.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what we're talking about here. You are going to need to buy a $2 billion stadium.
Yes.
You are going to need to probably spend what's a conservative number for a new facility? $500 million?
Well, no, that'll be the new stadium. The new stadium will have the practice facility in it.
Right, but I would say $2 billion is probably just for the stadium, even. Like
no. That'd be the whole thing.
How much did the stadium in Houston cost? It
was a long time ago, and I wouldn't be able to divulge that kind of numbers anyway.
Oh, that's fair.
But
ballpark.
$2 billion is everything. $2 billion is a major stadium, commercial development around it.
Okay,
practice facility.
Enough.
That's everything.
Okay. You need to spend that plus Dan wants 7? No. Honestly, the team's probably only worth 4.
Well, and the other distressed part of it is that the fan base is totally fed up. I abandoned the team. I openly say I enjoy talking about all this, but I don't root for the team anymore. Right. I watch these games every week. Half the time I'm rooting for the other team. And don't forget, the team went as late as like the early 2000s. They had a 10-year waiting list.
Supposedly.
I put my name on. I'm trying to think of the years. I was on the waiting list for several years.
Mm-hmm.
I finally got a call from them in something like 2008 or 9 or something like that. And at that point, I had been on the waiting list for like 6 or 7 years.
Okay, so you went in the early 2000s.
I want to say I'm not. Don't hold me to that, but something along those lines. Yes.
Okay. At this point, if you called them, you could get tickets tomorrow.
I absolutely could. But that's my point. It's like they had a sellout streak from 1967 to like, and they started kind of jerry rigging the sellout at the end of it all. But it went 35 years with
They
legitimately
have to
sold out.
burn down the stadium at this point.
Yeah.
They have to burn down this practice facility.
It's
They
like
need to-
their fan base is gone. Their
Yep.
facilities totally suck. Their
Right.
stadiums suck.
The only
There's a
thing that
lot
they
of
have
problems.
going for them is they have an average team, and I
Nobody
mean that,
cares about that. It's about business, and what they have going for them is they have the NFL's Karl Marx money. It's a
Sure.
guaranteed.
Oh no, I
winner.
get that. But I'm saying in terms of like if you're having to rebuild this, at least the team isn't like terrible. It's average. But I know, like you said, that doesn't matter too much.
Nobody cares about that.
Yeah. I mean, you can market Terry McLaurin. You got that.
Yeah, that'll boost the price.
He's got $1 million
$500 million.
smile. That had that million to what you're gonna pay Dan Snyder for that smile. All right, we need to change gears because we could go on about all this all day. We got to talk safeties and we got to we got to talk about safeties and quarterbacks. So our buddy Nolan from Tampa did a thing on safeties. Let's be real. The Commanders released Bobby McCain. They're not bringing in much safety help, if any at all, in free agency. So do we want to just go through the list of?
We're going to blow through this really fast. Yep. So you can, first of all, this is up on it. If you want to read about safety group, we're going through all the free agent groups.
Right.
We kind of Tampa. We got our schedule screwed up here, but we're going for safeties now. Well, I'll call you about all this later. Okay. So what he's listed as the top tier safeties: Jesse Bates, Von Bell, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Jordan Poyer, Taylor Rapp. None of those people are going to be with Washington.
Right.
Those are the top tier. The second tier: Julian Love, Juan Thornhill, Jimmy Ward, Donovan Wilson, Marcus Epps. No. The third tier: Devin McCourty, Daron Harmon, Adrian Amos, Deshaun Gibson, Rodney McLeod. They may take a flyer on one of those guys like that, possibly, but Washington's happy with their starting safeties.
Right. The truth is, they released Bobby McCain to save somewhere between $2 and $4 million, depending on what the cut is, if it's post-June.
They have starters that they're happy with.
They have two rookie starters or young starters.
I will say this: Cam Curl's dad is interjecting himself into his son's business, and he has made, I believe, on Twitter, statements like talking about the contract that Cam is due. Now, business guys don't really like it when the family gets involved.
No.
Cam's dad, whatever your name is, my recommendation to you is to stay out of it. Just talk to your son all you want, obviously, but stay out of the media because teams hate that crap.
I mean, I think it's even tolerable if you're at least the dad sitting there with the agent and Cam talking. Like if
they don't want that.
I know they don't want that, but that's better than him doing it in the media.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Talk to the agent. Yeah, the agent wouldn't want either. But the agent's kind of job is to handhold some of those anxious parents and stuff.
Right.
But the media stuff, just don't.
That's part of his 4%.
My point, reason I'm saying that is Cam might be a pain in the butt to sign. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
that's possible.
And I would argue anybody whose family doesn't matter. Like, because remember Kurt Warner's wife did that years ago. Like,
yeah, and everybody thought she was annoying, and nobody wanted it. And that's
was annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just telling you, like, from a guy who I don't do NFL I mean, our fake job is the NFL. I do contract stuff for a living. Yeah. And this kind of nonsense, it's nonsense. Stay out of it. Nobody wants this.
Doesn't look good. All right, so that's the quick summary of safeties. I don't think they'll sign anybody.
I don't either.
They're trying to save money at this point, and
again, they may have we'll have some undrafted free agents or whatever, but yeah,
they even have decent depth already.
They do.
It's a good spot for them, a safety group. All right, let's talk quarterbacks. Those are more interesting.
Okay.
Steve, and you wrote this up.
Yeah. Okay. So it hadn't been published yet, but it'll go up here this
probably
week.
Friday or something.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, and you figure it out. Okay. So quarterbacks. Now the status of Washington is they cut Carson Wentz.
Right.
Taylor Heineke is a free agent. So currently QB1 by default is Sam Howell because the only other quarterback on the roster is a practice squad guy, Jake Fromm, who signed a futures deal. So between the two of them, yes, I wholeheartedly agree Sam Howell's number one. That does not mean Ron Rivera saying he's QB1 is factually accurate, number one, but that's not to say he's going to be the starter next year.
Well, and Rivera at the Combine, which is starting right now or these days.
This week, yeah.
Yeah, Rivera said, to be clear, Sam Howell's it's not his job. He's just going to get a good shot at it. because
he's showing support for his guy, and I respect that. But I think the
they
fans
like
have
him.
taken this
Yeah.
totally the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible. I don't know if it's likely, but it's 100% definite that Washington will sign at least one, maybe two quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible, but not likely they will spend big money. So let's just start at the top here. Lamar Jackson, I would put number one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Of the free agents, yes.
League MVP 2019, first team All Pro, two-time Pro Bowler, playoffs, elite runner, but
wants cartoon money.
Deshaun Jackson. Lamar Jackson has a terrible agent. Do you know who Lamar Jackson? Yes, Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson's agent, and Lamar Jackson needs to fire his agent because
he fired his last agent, if you remember, who was his mom.
Yeah.
So,
And Lamar is the cause of these problems. So, but Lamar is demanding a contract that is bigger than Deshaun Watson's.
Right.
So that's crazy. So if that's the case, Washington ain't spending no $40 million a year on this guy.
Now you say it's crazy. Personally, I would rather pay Lamar that money than Deshaun Watson, but
I wouldn't. I don't.
Different scenarios.
But I'm just saying, by Washington stand, I don't see them being able to throw down $40 million a year on this. And also, Lamar is a quarterback who needs a specific offense. He's the league MVP. I'm very high on him, and my Ravens friend buddy, if you're listening, hates him. And he's a diehard Ravens fan, but I think a lot of Lamar Jackson, but you have to use him properly. And I don't think Washington's, maybe Eric Bieniemy's different, and I'll give Bieniemy a shot, but up in non-Bieniemy, I don't trust their coaching staff enough to say they'd use him properly.
I mean, look, I highly enjoy that style of football. Don't get me wrong. The, quarterback, freak athlete type quarterback stuff is always enjoyable, but we're not built for it at all here.
That's right.
So,
no, they're not.
Yeah.
They really aren't. So I think it's pipe dream is what it is for Washington.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Next guy.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Really? You have him over Derek Carr?
Yeah.
Okay.
Derek Carr strikes me as, I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't think either one of them are going to be in the Hall of Fame, first of all. But if you look at a solid pro, what did Jimmy Garoppolo do? 67% completion percentage in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Career 67% completion percentage. 87 touchdowns, 42 interceptions, career 99.6 quarterback rating. He has excelled statistically.
He's a very good quarterback. I'm not saying
Well, now, the other side to that, he's been on a very good team with a lot of stuff around him.
Mm-hmm.
But he is consistently puts up good numbers, and he's a pocket quarterback, and he would work well in a sort of a standard traditional NFL offense. Right. So I like that. Now
he gets hurt a lot though.
Yeah, and the production for him is in the neighborhood of about $35 million average annual value, which is a lot. And will Washington do that? I don't know if they will. Now Derek Carr, who I have third on here, I just don't like him quite enough as much, and the reason is his numbers aren't good enough, aren't as good. 64.6 completion percentage, 91.8 quarterback rating. Last year, 8 quarterback rating of 86. His statistical production is not as much as Jimmy Garoppolo, and that's why I have him ranked number 2.
I would say you have a fair point, but I would counter that with his roster is nowhere near as good as the San Francisco roster.
Fair enough.
And again, Garoppolo always gets hurt and misses at least half the season.
It was this time. It was Trey Lance that got hurt, which is why he was playing in the first place.
That's true.
Ironically.
Yeah. And of course now they're going to move on to their third quarterback. So
because Trey Lance is going to be a bust. I'm sorry to tell you, Trey Lance is a bust.
Yeah.
So the fourth one is totally unrealistic, but in terms of who I would want, this is the one: Daniel Jones.
Interesting.
Daniel Jones isn't coming to Washington.
No, he's
There's
not
no
leaving
chance.
New York.
He's going to stay in New York, and New York would move heaven and earth to not let him go to Washington. But if you're just ranking him in the free agents, I like Daniel Jones. I was
not unrealistic. For spot wise.
Yeah, and fourth, and New York did the right thing. They did the opposite of what Washington does with quarterback. Washington plays a quarterback for 6 games and throws him away. Mm-hmm. They draft a quarterback in the first round, they play him for half a season, and he's just gone. That's what New York played this dude through thick and thin, through when everybody thought he should be benched. Everybody called him a bust. And look what he did last year. 67% completion percentage, 92 quarterback rating, winning record, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Was it great, spectacular? No, but he's come a long, long way from his rookie year.
I think what they've done well with him in New York, and this is what you have to do with a lot of quarterbacks, they figured out what he does, and they've kind of just limited their offense to what he can do well. I mean, he's a good runner. He's not he's your classic guy who will get like 50 yards on the ground and he'll throw for 180 or something like that, like that. And is he ever going to be a superstar? No, but you could build an offense around that for 5-6 years until you might find somebody else.
And New York knows that. New York knows that.
Yeah.
New York has a good coaching staff. So that what you said is exactly why I like Daniel Jones. Now, Spotrac put his annual average of value at $26 million. So
I don't trust Spotrac anymore about.
I don't really either, but that's kind of where they have them, and
because you've seen what they have Heineke's at, right? Like it's like 18 million or something.
Him.
Yeah. I know we will, but
okay. And so at this point now we're out of the franchise quarterback territory. Okay, the rest of these guys are journeymen at various levels. So next guy I have listed is Teddy Bridgewater.
Okay.
Career journeyman. He's been, Minnesota. He got horribly hurt in Minnesota. Remember?
Never been the same.
2 years in New Orleans, Carolina, Denver, Miami. He's been everywhere. 78 games, 66% completion percentage, 75 touchdowns, 90.5 quarterback rating. Played only 5 games this year in Miami.
Didn't play well, right?
No, 62% completion percentage, 85.6 quarterback rating. No, he's a journeyman. But he's a veteran. If Washington really wants to just be like, we're all in on Sam Howell, this is the type of guy you bring in to back him up.
Sure. I don't disagree with you there that because you need somebody who will compete, right? And he'll compete.
And who can actually play if Howell would get hurt or does suck.
Yeah.
You have somebody who can run in and come in and run an offense.
But here's the thing. There's like 4 or 5 of these guys right now. So
we're going to get to them. We're just going over
and I agree with you. You need to get one of these guys in. Mm-hmm. To me, it's all going to come down to price tag because I don't think they want to pay that much money for any of them.
No.
And then it's going to come down to the real question is, if you think Howell might be the guy, do you think this guy's a good mentor? And that's the $1,000 question with all of them. There's one guy who I'm sure we'll get to him, and I would say yes to. And when we get to him,
okay.
Yeah.
Of course, it's literally $1 million question, not $1,000 question, but yes.
Sure.
now, Teddy Bridgewater had a $6.5 million contract last year, so he's not going to be that expensive. Okay, the next one everybody's going to disagree with me with, and that's fine. I've got Sam Darnold next.
Interesting.
Now, Sam Darnold's been with the Jets, so you have to qualify his entire career with that. Because if there's one team that destroys careers more than Washington, it's the Jets.
Yes.
And the Jets ruin everything. And so his stats suck, okay? But it's been with the Jets. 59.7 completion percentage, 55 interceptions, quarterback rating less than 80. Believe me, I get it, okay? But he's with the Jets. He has good physical characteristics. I'm not saying the guy needs to be Washington's long-term star. I'm saying you could bring this guy in as a veteran backup. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, who was the last guy, Mark Sanchez, that we brought from the Jets? Like the guys who leave the Jets get permanent PTSD from being with the Jets.
It's like you just kind of like,
right.
You saw a dog get puppy but blown up and your life isn't the same. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So that's my one big flag. I understand what you're saying, but yeah.
Now, most people, I have Baker Mayfield next. Most people would have Mayfield ranked over Darnold. I just don't like the guy, and so I just don't like him.
Sure.
And so I'm a bit biased against Baker Mayfield in that regard. But Baker, I think, is kind of a bust too. He was with Cleveland, the Browns. Traded
similar
him to
Carolina,
Washington,
the Jets. Yeah.
Yeah, his stats. The other thing is his stats aren't very good either. 61% completion percentage, 86 quarterback rating. Baker is. I don't know what to. I don't know what to say.
Time in LA this year either. Like, did that help him or not really? That's kind of hard
I just don't
to say.
like that guy. I don't know what to say. So I've got him next. Now I put Geno Smith next, but only because I think Geno deserves to be higher. But there's zero chance. I probably will move him around before I publish this. Geno had an outstanding year. He's a career journeyman.
Mm-hmm.
who's moved all around. But last year he excelled for the Seahawks, and I think that Seahawks are going to 100% re-sign him, which is why I originally had him ranked lower on this. But when I published, I'll probably move him up.
Frankly, I would say you should just have a separate category for him and Daniel Jones for, they're free agents, but
yeah, I mean, I originally kind of did that, and then I moved them all around, and I just forgot to move Geno up, to be honest, on what I'm looking at here. Yeah. So Geno last year, a quarterback rating of 100, completion percentage of almost 70%, threw for more than 4,000 yards. This dude had a career year. Seattle would be fools not to sign him. So that's Geno Smith.
And I think he wants to stay there anyway. From everything they're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like Geno Smith.
Why wouldn't he? Because, I mean, he's revitalized his career up there. Mm-hmm. Okay, Jacoby Brissett, 6'4", big dude.
Right.
Been around. Another guy been around. Patriots, Colts, Cleveland.
He's basically the Taylor Heineke of the Colts.
3 inches taller, but yes.
But like he came in out of nowhere, kind of helped them string along a while.
But he's the third round pick. People forget that.
I forgot that. I didn't.
Third round pick with the Patriots in 2016. So his numbers, again, not that good. 61% completion percentage, 84 quarterback rating. He's a career journeyman. What can you say? It's another guy who can come in and run an offense if Sam Howell poops.
Right. That's what all these guys are, basically. Yeah.
Mason Rudolph next. I mean, what can you say? I mean, third round pick Steelers 2018, has barely played. He's only played 17 games, 10 starts in 4 years.
I would have him much lower personally because I think he's always.
Well, this is kind the end. I didn't go over 20. I ran out of space here, so this is the only one that I have is I put Heineke at the end just because we all know about it and know who he is, and at first I thought because of Scott Turner's gone, they probably won't bring him back. That even said, Ron Vera, I noticed, said something nice about
He Heineke. Loves Taylor Heineke, some too now.
So I don't even want to go there, but Taylor Heineke's the other one. And all the rest of them are not legitimate veteran backup types, I don't think. I think if the goal here is either sign a franchise quarterback or you have a legitimate, real veteran starter behind a rookie or a second-year player, it's one of these guys. The rest of them are just Jags.
So you don't have Andy Dalton up in that? Because that's the guy who I would actually think.
I left him off the list.
As far as a guy who might be like a good mentor type, I think he would be very good for that.
I just think he's washed up, though.
I think he's washed up. Yeah, I wouldn't want him really
That's why I left him off. I wasn't really thinking mentor. I was thinking who could come in if Sam Howell sucks and they go, oh, my God, we made a mistake, and they draft like some dude in the 5th round, and they have this person, one of these 10 people here. They need a guy who can come in and play for 10 games.
If you're looking for that,
this group. This is the group.
Fair enough. That's a different kind of discussion. I was always more thinking, not only somebody who could start, but I'm definitely looking for somebody who could be hey, I've played a lot, and here's some things you could do. Here's some things you need to learn about how to be a quarterback.
Andy Dalton would be a good mentor for sure.
Of that group, honestly,
Jimmy Garoppolo would be a good mentor. I think Derek Carr would be, but they're expensive.
Yeah, I'm not. No.
I don't know about Bridgewater on personal qualities. I don't know if he's good or bad at that.
Well,
Darnold,
but at least he's got lots of starting experience. Yeah. He would know how to coach that or help coach that stuff up.
I don't think
we didn't even talk about Washington has a new QB coach now. So they hired the guy from Stanford.
Right. I don't think Sam Darnold would be particularly. Tavita somebody is the name.
Right.
I don't think Sam Darnold would be particularly good at that. I think Baker Mayfield would be terrible at that. Mm-hmm. And Jacoby Brissett, I don't know. He was with the Colts, which is another train wreck. So, who knows?
Jacoby, at least he's got a couple of years of starts under his belt, so he could maybe have, you would trust him to take a snap.
But would he be? Yeah, but would he be a good mentor?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't think Baker would.
No, Baker would be a terrible mentor. That's what I'm saying.
This is the do not do what I do guy that you bring in.
Yes.
Baker Mayfield wanders in. He's drunk. He's doing lines or something. I don't know.
I don't know. We're not saying it's a joke.
It's obviously a joke. Yeah.
This is not the guy from A&M.
He's not Johnny Manziel.
Johnny Manziel, yeah. Who was photographed doing with rolled up dollars in front of a mirror.
He smoked a joint He's playing in some like minor league version of the Indoor
Played in a
Football League.
bunch of minor league
Yeah,
versions.
and as a touchdown celebration, he literally lit up a joint.
There's a
Like,
photograph of him in a bathroom with a rolled up dollar.
yes, there is. All right, that should cover free agent quarterbacks. Last thing we had on our agenda, we probably should have covered or talked about the Ron Rivera stuff a little more, and Mayhew spoke today, but
I didn't see
they don't
that
say
at
a
all,
whole
but
lot of substance.
tell us what Mayhew said.
Well, I didn't even read anything he said. Honestly, I was trying to watch it, and it's all coach speak or GM speak in his case. The only thing I found interesting is he was talking a lot about how much value he gets more. He seems to get a lot of value out of the Senior Bowl, which is interesting. I almost got the vibe that he likes that kind of thing more than the Combine. There's just a vibe I got when he was talking about it.
The Combine's a bit of a dog and pony show, a little bit.
Oh, it absolutely has become that.
Yeah.
I mean, are the numbers useful? I guess. But we also know they're meaningless because what you do in underwear is not what you're going to do on a football field.
But the value of it, I think, is that you do compare these players against their peers.
Sure.
Granted, they're all in their underwear, and that there's limited value in that. But you can see how they do compared to the other people around him. And that has value.
Right. But, I mean, there have always been plenty of stories of guys who don't run a good 40 time in the Combine, but we all know they're NFL quick.
I didn't run a good 40, and I'm NFL quality.
Sure.
But I could only run a 4.5.
Did you ever actually run a 4.5 when you were in high school or playing or whatever?
Do I have to tell the truth on this podcast? No, I never. I wasn't that fast.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, if you had even said 4.7, I would have been like, that's actually pretty good for like the average person.
I could have, if I had worked out, I could have maybe got down to that level. Yeah. But I wasn't. Yeah, I'm just. Yeah.
So the thing we need to talk about, though, obviously that happened at the Combine today, that was a big story, the Jalen Carter situation. He's a Georgia Bulldog. He was projected by Mel Kiper to be the number one pick. Most people have him at least as a top 5. And there's a terrible situation that happened in Georgia where after they won the championship, another player and a coach died in a car accident. And it sounds like Jalen Carter's in trouble because just before he was about to go speak to the press, the state of Georgia, or I guess the county, put out an arrest warrant for him because he was apparently drag racing these guys, and it sounds like he was involved in some way in the deaths of his teammate and a former coach. And that's kind of where we're at.
The situation is more serious than the charges that were leveled against Carter as a result of the situation, okay? The situation is horrible. It's tragic. 2 people died. Was it 1 or 2?
Yeah, I think it's 2. I'm
pretty
people
sure lost their lives.
The driver and the passenger both
in
died.
The other car, right.
Yeah.
I'm not minimizing that anyway, so don't misunderstand me. The state has charged all this having been said, the state has charged Jalen Carter with misdemeanor reckless driving.
Right.
And like racing. And a misdemeanor is not going to result in anything, okay? He's going to plead it out, especially if he has a clean record. I don't know if he does or he doesn't. If he has a clean record, he'll plead it out. You don't, unless the state of Georgia is drastically different than the state of Texas in terms of criminal, which it's probably not. People don't go into prison for misdemeanors, even if it's the highest level in Texas, would be Class A misdemeanor, would be the highest level. You might go to jail for a week or 2, you know, but that's it. And with a dude who's got money, who has a good lawyer, they are going to plead it out, cut a deal, and he's not going to miss anything substantial. So I will predict. I don't know about you, Alex. I will predict this. All of a sudden, Jalen Carter is going to learn about himself and look at himself and examine himself and arrive at the point and realize that he's made a mistake and he's trying to work on himself. And he's going to say all of this. And then the teams at the top of the draft are going to say, we talked to him. He's acknowledged his mistake. It's a one-time thing. He's learned from himself. He's looking inward, and they're going to draft him at the top of the draft anyway. That's what I think is going to happen.
I mean, I think you
They didn't charge
probably
him
are
with
right.
vehicular homicide, vehicular manslaughter, or anything like that. It's misdemeanor reckless driving.
I mean, they didn't even charge him with the fact that he left the scene of the crime, or that apparently he lied in his statement to the
They
police.
didn't charge him with perjury
Yeah,
or
yeah,
lying to the
because
police.
both those things supposedly happened in this whole situation,
Yeah.
and that's not what he got charged with. So
Nope.
they're definitely going light. I was listening to somebody on the radio said that the max penalty for what he's being charged with could be a year, but you know as well as I do that's not what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have time to study the Georgia criminal statutes.
Right.
Did this happen in Georgia?
Yes,
Yeah.
Georgia.
If somebody wants me to speak up, and I'll go look it up. But yeah, I mean, the max level misdemeanor hypothetically could be something like that, but I'm just telling you that's not what.
Unless
what's
you
gonna happen.
like really screw up and make a total ass out of yourself in the courtroom or something. Really
Well,
piss off the
usually when
judge.
people get those, it's because they'll start out with felonies, okay?
Right.
And they'll plead it down. They'll get rid of the felonies, and they'll end up with like a class A misdemeanor and get the max sentence because what they really did is much worse.
Oh, okay.
This
So
is
it's
not
like if you committed manslaughter, they plead it
You're
down
gonna
to
plead
this
it down to
got
like
it.
reckless driving, and that's how you end up with prison time for misdemeanor. But again, even then, it's only So they're starting off with reckless driving.
Mhm.
He may plead guilty to reckless driving, or it's going to be like probation. Maybe they send him away for a week. Probation. He'll have to take some classes.
Fines,
Yeah,
probably. Yeah.
that's what it's going to be. And again, the teams are going to, because the teams don't care about character whatsoever. They're going to talk themselves. They're going to publicly say that all the things I just said. He's looked at himself. He's all of that, and it's just garbage. But that's what they're going to say. That's you may have a different opinion. That's what I think.
No, I completely agree. That's what's going to happen. I'm just as cynical about the whole process as anybody.
I've seen it too many times, man.
Yeah, I mean, now do I even think that what he did? Obviously, you don't go into a drag race and think, oh, someone could die. Like that's not.
The other thing is the other guy who died was drunk driving. So that I don't mean this to sound bad, but that helps Carter's case.
Right.
It sounds horrible, but I mean it does.
No, it's reality. It's a terrible situation, obviously.
Yes.
And I'm sure he doesn't feel good about it. He probably like your friend died. Like that, you're gonna feel terrible. Like unless you're a sociopath, that it's gonna affect you. So hopefully he does learn something from it.
I'm reading. Just because I'm kind of embarrassed that I pulled this site up, but this is what came up when in the first hit, The Guardian.
Okay.
Yeah, not really a Steve Thomas kind of a publication.
No, definitely not.
But but I want to read out here is Carter put out a statement. Now, Jalen Carter 100% did not write this.
No.
Okay, his agents and his attorneys. His attorneys wrote this, and his agent approved it, or vice versa.
His agent probably hired an attorney.
Yeah. Because it's got some buzzwords in here, and they're trying to send a message at this. This morning I received a telephone call from the Athens, Georgia Police Department informing me that 2 misdemeanor warrants have been issued against me for reckless driving and racing. Numerous media reports have circulated this morning containing inaccurate information concerning the tragic events of 15 January 2023. It is my intent to return to Athens to answer the misdemeanor charges against me to make certain that the complete and accurate truth is presented. There is no question in my mind that when all of the facts are known, I will be fully exonerated of any criminal wrongdoing. Now, he doesn't believe that. So what you need to know here that I picked up is that he mentioned the word misdemeanor twice.
Right.
And he said the charge, reckless driving and racing. Those are the charges.
Mm-hmm.
You don't say, this morning I received a telephone call from the Athens Georgia Police Department informing me that 2 felony warrants have been issued against me for murder and rape of a child.
No.
That's what and I'm not making light of those charges. What I'm saying is if you get charged with horrible stuff, you don't remind the public of the horrible stuff. You just say there are issues and we're going to, take care of them and I'm innocent. These guys twice said misdemeanors twice.
Yeah, it's PR as much as anything. Yeah.
And said reckless driving, which is make it known the death is not on our guy.
Right.
So they're making it known. This is the setup here.
Oh, I totally get it. It's so clearly written by a lawyer. And even someone like me, first off, no one writes 15 January 2000 like you would say January 15th. That's the way humans speak, not lawyers.
No. Military people speak like this. That's military. You might not know this, Alex, because you're a pinko commie leftist. Military people, the military uses date, then month, then year, always. So maybe this guy whoever wrote this might be a military guy.
Maybe.
I always say 15 Jan 23. That's what all military people say.
Also, socialists in Europe. That they
love.
Really? Oh yeah, that's European. Well,
maybe that's
the same with the 24-hour clock. That's totally a European thing. That's
coming full circle. So your people and my people have some of the similarities.
Absolutely. Well, the French socialists, at least. I don't know about the rest of them.
French don't count.
Yeah. But yeah, that's more of a European thing than anything. But yeah, so that just, no one uses the word exonerate in their day-to-day life like that. It's so clearly lawyer writing.
Yeah. Carter did not write one word of this.
No.
He probably didn't even read it.
No. He might have had his lawyer say, I wrote something for you, and that's about it.
Yeah, here, sign this. Right. Yeah, that's all it. But in all seriousness, what you need to pick out of there is they're highlighting the fact that it's misdemeanors.
Yeah.
And they're telling you that the state did not charge him with the death of the other person. That's the two things you need to take out of that statement. That's telling the NFL that. And so the teams can go, it's only a misdemeanor. There's lots of people with misdemeanors in the league.
Right.
It's reckless driving. There's lots of people who have reckless driving charges. He learned from his mistakes. He's examining himself. He's promised us that he's going to be good. All of that.
Well, and maybe he will. Maybe. Look, So here's the thing. I don't think the league could even punish him anyway because he's not a player
No, they
yet.
can punish him.
Can they?
Yeah.
I mean, if he's not a player yet, they can.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the only question I think is, does he go 1 overall? Probably not anymore.
Depends on how bad the Texans can talk themselves into them needing a defensive end.
I would assume the Texans are talking themselves into needing a quarterback more than
Well,
anything.
yeah, but I mean, I'm not a Bryce Young believer.
No.
That dude is not much bigger than me.
No, he's not. Steve, he might not be bigger than you.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
I'm 5'8.5" without shoes on, and I don't know if he's going to be that big.
Bryce Young is like 5'9" is what people say.
Yeah.
And
he's skinny too, so I don't know. I mean, who are you going to draft number 1 overall?
CJ Stroud could be. There's 3 decent quarterbacks, and if you need a quarterback, you draft a quarterback.
But 2 of them are questionable, like Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Will Levis. Will Levis and Bryce Young both have major question marks.
I get that. But if you need a quarterback,
I know.
Overall,
This is also another. We're way over time.
Yeah, we should. All right. Yeah. You're right. We should wrap.
We could talk for 2 hours, and we almost have.
Yeah. We're at an hour and a half. All right, guys. We will talk to you all next week. I don't even know what we're covering. We're not even going to go into it.
We'll cover that later.
We'll cover it when we cover it. Later, guys.